there.
Welcome,
And
Diana.
Diana will.
Thank you.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, Patrick.
She looks forward to working with all of you. She has gone through and taken on the role, of course, left by Jeannie, gone through all 7 items extensively, has been watching your meetings online to gauge how these are conducted. And I will let her formally introduce herself here.
So hello, everybody. Today is actually my very first day, so this is an exciting long agenda here. But as Steve mentioned, yeah, I have reviewed the projects and should be able to answer any questions that you have.
Well, great. Well, welcome aboard. And we apologize that you had to watch some of our meetings to get a feel for how we do things, but we'll try and be as expedient as we can tonight. We do have a very big agenda, so we should probably get started. Thank you.
Yeah.
We're still learning on.
Commissioner Sharma is not here, but we do have a quorum, so I would recommend we get started. I can begin by reading the ground rules that you are all familiar with. Thank you for joining us this evening for the July 7th, 2021 Monte Sereno Site and Architecture Commission meeting. Before the meeting is called to order, I would like to point out a few house rules to assist staff and members of the public to successfully participate in this commission meeting. Commissioners, your microphone is live, so please keep your microphones on mute until you wish to speak. For today's meeting, we are using Zoom to host the meeting. At the bottom of the Zoom client, there are 2 icons, chat and raise hand. Please use chat only to report technical issues such as being unable to hear commissioners speaking. Please use raise hand to be recognized by the chair and enabled to speak to the commission. To comment under oral communications on any agenda item, you are allowed 3 minutes to speak. Emails limited to 350 words can also be submitted to the clerk, and I will read it into the record. This word limit is set to adhere to the typical 3-minute time allowance. Only attendees using the Zoom application can use the raise hand option to comment. Participants calling in from a telephone will only be able to listen and cannot provide feedback or public comment. Lastly, because we are not all in the same room, all votes at this meeting will be taken by roll call, which we will begin with now with calling the roll officially. Commissioner Harrington.
Here.
Commissioner Ziedler.
Here.
Commissioner Sharma. He's muted.
Hello.
Commissioner Sharma. Oh.
Yes, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Butcher.
Here.
And Commissioner, or I should say Chair White.
I'm here. Thank you very much, Mr. Linares.
We're all in tonight. Thank you.
All right, folks, I don't know if everybody's had an opportunity to review the minutes from our June 2nd Site and Architectural Commission meeting. If so, does anybody want to make a motion to approve those?
No, I'll make a motion to approve those.
Thank you, Patrick. Is there a second?
I second it.
Heather seconds, and Mr. Leonaris, if you'll do a call on that particular item, then we can move forward with the minutes.
Yes, Commissioner Harrington.
Aye.
Commissioner Ziedler.
Aye.
Commissioner Sharma.
Yes.
Commissioner Butcher.
Yes.
Chair White.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Leonardis.
Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have an opportunity here in our meeting, as we do with every meeting, for the public to speak. And this is in relationship to any item that is not on the agenda. So if you come here in relationship to a particular item on the agenda, this is not your opportunity to speak. We'll give you an opportunity to speak later in the meeting. But if there's something that isn't on our agenda tonight, if you'll use the raise hand feature, and I'll know to call on you and we can hear from you in relationship to that particular item. Give everybody an opportunity to raise their hand. And seeing none, as we often do, we are now going to close the communications part of our meeting, and we're going to move to the public hearings. And the first item is item number 1. Ms. Perkins, I don't know how prepared you are. You said you've looked at this stuff, but ordinarily the planner provides the commission with a brief introduction on each item. I don't know if you're planning to do that tonight or not.
I definitely am, yes.
Well, great. That saves me a lot of stuff. So with that, let's call item number 1. And if you could briefly introduce it to us, please, Ms. Perkins, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. This is an application for removal of 2 coast live oak trees ranging from 24 to 43 inches in circumference at 18165 Constitution Avenue. And just one point of clarification, the application and the arborist report that are attached included 4 trees, and the valley oak and the holly oak that were included are of a smaller size than would require a tree removal permit. So on the site plan, it's just the 2 trees highlighted in blue. And that concludes the staff report.
Great. Thank you very much, Ms. Perkins. Okay, we've got an applicant here tonight that wants to speak to this. I don't see Mr. Mockler in our audience, but if there is somebody that wants to speak in relationship to this particular item, please raise your hand now. We'll know to call on you. All right, seeing none. Is there anybody else from the public that wants to speak on this particular application? Again, please use the raise hand feature. Good, we're moving along swimmingly. All right, we'll close public comment and circle back to us.
Hey, Steve,
yeah.
Patrick Mockler has his hand up.
Oh, I
He's
didn't
there.
see him.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Oh, you know why? Because I'm on panelists. Sorry, but Mr. Mockler. Yes, you. I don't know how to.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to let you know that I'm here if you guys have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mockler. And commissioners, any questions for our applicant? All right. And then I had I was looking at panelists over attendees, so I apologize, folks. Anybody from the audience that wants to speak on this particular application that I overlooked in the past? Okay, I don't see any. Then I'm going to close the public comment and circle back like I thought I was doing earlier. Thank you, Heather, for interrupting me. I've had an opportunity to look at this application. I don't see any issue with this application, but if one of the other commissioners does have a concern, let's talk about it. Anyone?
I went out there today and Mr. Mockler happened to be there, and they've taken great care in their landscaping and to take care of the trees that are on the property. So I have no problem at all with approving this.
Yeah, likewise, I was there today, and I think that there are a lot of trees adjacent to the ones that they're requesting to remove. I don't have any issues with this either.
Allison or Patrick?
I looked at them before the weekend and agree that the remaining trees will actually thrive and do better thinning these out that they've requested to remove.
All right, then Patrick, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm good. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think the required findings that are set forth in our memorandum of decision for the tree removal permit at TR-2105 can be made, and I would move to approve this application as submitted with the decision premised upon 2 24-inch box trees to be planted in the front yard as provided for in the memorandum of decision. Is there a second?
I second the motion. And also, can I ask, can you hear me well? I'm calling from a new location at our house.
I can hear you perfectly.
Great. I second the motion then.
And that's what we heard. All right, Mr. Leonaris, if you'll do a roll call for us, please, we can ask this item.
Certainly. Commissioner Harrington,
Aye.
Commissioner Ziegler,
Aye.
Commissioner Sharma,
Aye.
Commissioner Boucher,
Aye.
and Chair White.
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Leonardis.
Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Ms. Perkins, let's move on to item number 2 in our agenda. if you could introduce that particular item, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you. This is another tree removal permit request. This one is for 7 trees ranging in size from 25 to 65 inches in circumference at 17551 Eaton Lane. And the reason for the request to remove the majority of the trees is due to the construction and new site landscaping that's being completed. And then there is one Afghan pine that has sort of overgrown the space that it's planted in. And staff does recommend approval of the removal of all 7 trees with the condition of the replacement of 1 24-inch box tree for each tree that's been removed. And that completes the staff report.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Perkins?
My only question was the one Japanese maple. I went out to the property and I couldn't tell if it was the Japanese maple kind of at the base of the driveway on the right or a different one. Do you recall?
Let me look that up. Correct. It is at facing the house to the right of, sort of to the right of the house. So not, there's a pine requested for removal to the right of the driveway. The Japanese maple is kind of to the back of the house, between the house and the sports court in the back.
Oh, it's in the back. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Perkins, commissioners? Okay, is there somebody on behalf of the applicant that wants to speak tonight? If you'll use the raise hand feature, I'll know to call on you. Very well, I'm not seeing anybody on behalf of the applicant. Is there anybody from our community that wants to speak on this particular application? Again, please use the raise hand feature. All right, seeing none, I'm going to close public comment and circle back to the commission for consideration of this particular application. Is there anybody that has strong thoughts one way or another in relationship to this application? All right.
So,
go ahead.
sorry, no. So I do. I mean, again, this is again a site that I went and I saw. So I agree on the birch trees, right? They look dead, and so they should be removed. But I mean, the other trees like the liquid amber, and then even the pine, for that matter, I'm not sure if the best way is to remove it, especially the liquid amber. So that was my concern. I'm not sure what that construction is going to look like. Does it really need to be removed? Because it's a really nice tree. It's really beautiful and you know, a healthy tree. So
You're talking about the amber, Pallavi?
The liquid amber, it's quite large. I had the same thoughts actually. It's a beautiful tree. It'd be nice if they could save it because it doesn't seem to be in the way of the driveway or anything else.
Yeah.
The pine tree is actually quite beautiful too, but you know.
Anybody
and then
else?
a couple of the other trees, I mean, they look like they're kind of close to the house. I mean, I think they could still be like, maybe you could just trim them. You don't necessarily need to remove them, but they're still smaller. And we could consider, you know, replacing those trees. But the liquid amber, I feel like, you know, we should try and see if there's a way we could save that.
Anyone else with comments? Does somebody want to make a motion modifying the memorandum of decision to exclude the liquid amber?
Or should we wait and push this off to the next meeting so that someone that can represent the owner or the owner can be here to discuss the project?
I'm fine with that as well. I mean,
I think that's a better way. It's hard when they're not here, but I guess they waived their right to be here. So I'm a little conflicted on which is
A few of the trees are pretty close to the house that they're doing a lot of work on. I wonder if it'd make it easier for the contractors if we approve the ones we're okay with and then left the others open for the future meeting.
Yeah, the only hiccup to doing that, well, I think we'd have to make a motion to approve those trees which we don't have any objection to and exclude the one about which we do. And then close this particular application. They're going to have to reapply if they want to come back with liquid amber. Is that, and I hate to, I hate to hit you with a tough question right off the bat, Diane. Is that correct? Is that the process that would be adopted?
I think that would be the safest process at this point.
Okay. So, anybody else want to make a motion on that? Let me see.
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
So I move that we accept the application as presented, with the exception of the liquid amber tree, which we would like it to remain. That
I'll
work?
second. Yeah, and I'll second that motion.
Okay, Mr. Leonardis, please.
All right, Commissioner Harrington,
Aye.
Commissioner Ziegler, Commissioner Sharma,
Aye.
Commissioner Boucher,
Aye.
and Chair White.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leonardis. All right, Ms. Perkins, we are now going to move to item 3 on our agenda tonight, which is a fence design permit. Can you introduce that particular application for us, please?
Yes, thank you. This is a fence design permit to allow an 8-foot fence along the side corner property line at 17509 Via Sereno Avenue, and the fence is adjacent to Winchester Boulevard. There are a couple notes to make for this application also. The project title doesn't clarify, the plan does, that it also includes an 8-foot tall fence along the back. The rear property line is part of this application also. And then the other note that I wanted to make is that there is a change in the staff recommendation that staff recommends to allow the 8-foot fence for the entire length of the fence and not to reduce the height around the trees. Based on the site inspection, it doesn't appear that the increased height around the trees would affect the health of the trees. And that concludes the staff report.
All right. Ms. Perkins, I have a question. What's the articulated need for an 8-foot fence at the rear of the property?
I haven't had a chance myself to talk to the applicant. My understanding is that it was a privacy concern. The lot behind does have quite a bit of storage. And so I think it was just for a visual barrier.
All right, when I evaluated this, I was unaware of the rear. I don't know how my other commissioners feel about that. But let's first hear from the applicant. I believe they're on vacation, actually. Council member Mekachuk, are you here tonight to talk about this? I don't see you in our audience.
I saw somewhere he had written in correspondence somewhere that they're in Alaska on a trip and it's kind of off the beaten path and he just has no connectivity. So he submitted a letter.
Right. I did not review that stuff, and I'll tell you why. Because I thought it was inappropriate to deliver that to each of us without notice to everybody else about what we got. So we should make clear, as we always do, about any perceived conflicts that we all received, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong, hand-delivered application from the applicant in this particular case with correspondence attached to it, which I put in my circular file because I didn't think it was appropriate for us to receive items directly from the applicant that hasn't been filtered through the city. Is my articulation of what happened true for all of you? In other words,
They were just on my doorstep, so I wasn't I didn't know who had delivered it.
They deliver, it was delivered either by a courier or somebody from the landscaping company, I'm sure, because I was here when it showed up.
Okay.
Can we verify that it did or did not go through the city? Mr. Leonardis, can you tell us? I don't know if anyone can document it because Jeannie's gone. It would have been maybe the time Jeannie was still here. I don't know.
I can comment that we do have a copy of the letter in our project file. I don't believe that it came through the city though. Generally, any correspondence that would come through the city would be attached, an attachment to your staff report.
Thank you.
If I can elaborate, I think Mr. Mekachek's delivery of the item, regardless of how it was received, was intended by him to be helpful in the sense that he knew he was going to be out of town during this time and he wasn't going to be able to be reached or Zoom in or anything else. So I think it was just more affirmation of what the project details were. It is obviously, I think the information that you all received has been submitted in one form or another or handed to the city. You will be making your decision on the staff recommendations this evening and what is in the staff report. So, keep that in mind. That is the complete entirety of the report as well as any other comments that were received that are included in the report.
All right, that's fair enough. Is there anybody from the community that wants to speak to this particular application? If you'll use the raise hand feature, I'll know to call on you. All right, seeing none, I'm going to close public comment and circle back to the commission for consideration of this particular application. Does anybody want to start us off? All right, I will say that I was unaware, as I did earlier, that the back fence was to be 8 feet in addition to that, which bordered Winchester Boulevard. I can't recall if it was this commission or the prior commission upon which I served with Heather that considered various fence height restrictions and modifications that ultimately were codified in our city very recently. But at that time, I remember, we identified particular exceptions upon which taller fences could exist, and it was next to commercial properties. It was next to communities that have higher fence restrictions. It was next to, gosh, what else? I can't recall. But in any event, I don't know whether any of those considerations that we previously visited exist here because I haven't evaluated the back. As I recall, there's a neighbor right there. So I'm reluctant to approve the back without some additional information and the opportunity to actually evaluate the site and see if there's any concern. It is obviously important to recognize that the neighbor's not here objecting. But I'm not a big fan of 8-foot fences throughout the town either. And that may be unique to me. So I'm interested in what my other commissioners feel on this.
I feel
So,
like, go ahead, sorry.
no, go ahead, please.
Well, I was just going to say for the back fence, I feel like it starts a precedent. It doesn't really fit within the same exceptions that we were talking about getting approval for a taller fence. So I feel like it's not really, it's just going to snowball from there if we allow this one, is my thought on that. Go ahead, Commissioner Sharma.
I was gonna pretty much say the same thing, and then also I guess I'm not clear on why that 8-foot fence in the back is needed. So I think I'm okay with the the 8-foot fence bordering Winchester, but the back fence being 8 foot, I have questions on why is that really needed.
I agree with what you're all saying. That seems reasonable to me. Parsing out the side from the back.
Yeah.
Patrick, any
I just, yeah, it's unclear to me. In fact, I am not even clear on the type of fence that we're talking about here. It just describe it, but it doesn't really give much detail on the plans. And then, so I would agree with what everybody is saying here.
All right. That's good to hear that we're at least all in agreement. I have no problem with fences along Winchester Boulevard. We've talked about that in the past. So go ahead. What were you going to say?
Oh, just on the back of the page that was submitted, it has a drawing of what the typical fence would like, Patrick. I don't know if you turned it over because typically they're not printed on both sides, but there's the typical fence detail on the back.
Thank you, Heather.
Sorry.
That's all right.
And this is Diana. If I may, I should have clarified in the staff report that the intent is to add 2 feet onto the existing fence.
Okay.
So it's the same location. Another possibility in your motion is similar to the last item. If you would like to take no action on the rear fence, that would allow the property owner to submit a new application for that, versus if you deny it, then they would have to appeal to the city council.
Okay. Well, then I'll make a motion to adopt the proposed memorandum of decision for fence design permit FP-21-01 with the modification that the rear fence be excluded from our approval. Is there a second to that?
I'll second that
I'll
motion.
second.
Okay, thank you, Allison, and thank you, Flavia. Mr. Leonaris, will you take a roll call vote for us, please?
Yes. Commissioner Harrington,
Aye.
Commissioner Ziedler,
Aye.
Commissioner Sharma,
Aye.
Commissioner Boucher,
Aye.
Chair White.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Leonardis. All right, we're going to move on to item 4 on our agenda tonight, which is 17384 East Vineland Avenue. And Ms. Perkins, if you introduce that application to us, I'd appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a site development permit to add approximately 1,031 square feet to an existing single-story home at 17384 East Vineland Avenue. And the project does include relocation of an existing Japanese maple tree that is at the front of the house. And the specific relocated location of that tree hasn't been determined yet, but will be part of the landscape plans that would be submitted along with the building permit for the addition. And staff recommends approval of the site development permit and relocation of the maple tree. And this concludes the staff report.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Any questions, commissioners, for Ms. Perkins? Nor do I. Okay, great. Is there somebody here on behalf of the applicant? I thought I saw the applicant. If he wants to speak, we will give him that opportunity. All right.
Hello, my name is Nick Bonacorsi. I'm the new owner along with my wife. The house has actually been in the family for 60-ish years, but we're excited to have the opportunity to sort of bring it back to life a little bit. We tried to be conscientious of the neighborhood and our neighbors, and we think our plan sort of fits in line really well with what's going on East Vineland. So I don't really have much else to say. Thank you for hearing from me, and I appreciate what you guys are doing.
Thank you for coming tonight. Any questions, commissioners, for the applicant? No, it's a pretty straightforward application. Thank you. Is anybody from the audience that wants to speak on this particular application? Very good. All right, I'm going to close the public comment, circle back to the commission. As I mentioned a moment ago, I think this is pretty straightforward. I applaud the applicant for going to the effort to move this tree as opposed to just simply cutting it down and putting a new tree somewhere else. And I have no issue with this particular application, but I'm curious if other commissioners do.
I feel the exact.
I completely agree. I mean, I went to the site and it, the house is at enough of a setback. And again, I would echo, the appreciation on, moving the Japanese maple instead of simply removing it.
I feel the same.
Likewise.
All right, with that, I'm going to move that we approve the memorandum of decision for site development permit SS-21-12 as submitted to us with the conditions of approval attached. I think this is entirely consistent with the city guidelines and will be an improvement to our community. So thank you very much, Mr. Bonacorsi. Anybody got a second to that?
I'll second.
Mr. Leonardis, please.
Commissioner Harrington,
Aye.
Commissioner Ziedler,
Aye.
Commissioner Sharma,
Aye.
Commissioner Boucher,
Aye.
Chair White.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Leonardis. And good luck to Mr. Bonacorsi and his family on that project. All right, we're moving forward with item number 5, which is at 16333 Alexander Avenue. And Ms. Perkins, if you'll introduce this particular application to us, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a site development permit to construct a 460 square foot pool house. The pool house is detached in the backyard of the property at 16333 Alexander Avenue. And this application does also include the removal of one coast live oak that's 51 inches in circumference and one liquid amber tree that is 56 inches in circumference. And staff recommends approval of the application along with replanting one 24-inch box tree for each tree that is removed. And that concludes the staff report.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Anybody have questions for Ms. Perkins? Great. Does the applicant?
I actually have a question. Sorry,
Okay,
I was a
go
little
ahead.
slow on the button. My question's a little bit broader. So this is an application relating to the pool house and the tree removal. Will we have, if they do build a pool in the future, want to build a pool in the future, will that come back through the commission?
Pools are just a staff level review. There isn't a separate planning application. It would just be reviewed as part of the building permit.
Okay.
Good to know. Good question, Allison. Anybody else? All right. Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Do we have an applicant here tonight that wants to speak on this particular item? Raise your hand. Tiffany Schrader Brown. Can you hear us, ma'am?
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Oh,
Welcome.
you can't see my picture. I guess you're gonna just see that picture of me.
We'd love to see you live. We wish we were
I don't know
live.
how to do that. So I'm from Studio M Merge, which is the landscape and architecture firm that is working with the Simons. The Simons are also here listening in, and if there's any questions for them, they're the owners of the home. And we, our goal was to add an accessory structure that would preserve the location of, there's a large Quercus alba oak in the middle of the backyard. So we located the pool house and sort of set out the location for the future pool to avoid the tree and keep all the required setbacks in mind. And there's very little grading required. The pool house is in the character with the house that they live in now. It's set back behind the main house, and has the same sort of color and roof and everything as the main house. So that is our proposal, 460 square foot accessory structure. And then future permit, thank you for asking that question too about the staff level review for the pool. So that would be under future permit.
Great, thank you. Anybody have any questions for the applicant's representative tonight? All right, any,
I have one question about the 18-inch oak. It looks like it's you know, at the really sort of the side of the property, and like the canopy is pretty high. What is the reason for removing that, or is it necessary to remove that?
Is that the number 101 or number 107? The one at the top of the page or the bottom of the page?
I'm not sure. If I don't see the numbers here, but it's basically the one that borders the fence.
Yeah, the one that borders the fence that's at the north side of the property interferes with
Yeah.
access and staging. There's no way to build the pool house or the pool with it in that place. And basically we wanted to use the plantings in inappropriate areas. So we thought we would take that same type of tree, which is the Quercus agrifolia, and place it in a 24-inch box form in the front so that it would have more of a prominent location. And the other tree that you're talking, maybe the other one, I don't know which one, the other one was interfering with rear yard access. That's a smaller tree. That might be the one you're talking about. I'm not sure. And that one we're replacing with a Swan Hill, and we're using it as a shading device for the house so that it's used more naturally to shade in that area.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I have one question for you as well, Administrator Brown. Do you know, were there any communications? This is going to be 6 feet from the
Yes.
from
Yes.
the neighbor, and did we have any communications with that neighbor and to understand their view of this particular project?
I think that the Simons, I think they have spoken to their neighbor about it, and I'll let them speak to that. As far as the setbacks are considered, we've had, we placed everything on this site based on the side and rear setback, which was 6 feet. And then also knowing that it had to be 6 feet from roof eave to house roof eave. And all of those things were taken into account. I'm not sure whether Kim and Dave have reached out to their neighbor, but they're very talkative people and social people. My guess is yes. Is Kim raising her hand?
I think Dave is here. Dave, we're happy to hear from you. Yeah.
Hang on. I'm sorry. Hi, can you hear us?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Sorry,
Okay.
Kim.
Thank
Says
you.
Dave.
Yes, the Urics are the neighbors that are related to this question, and they're very excited for the project. They're very excited for all the work we're doing and are in support of this new structure.
Well, great. That was my primary question. Any other questions for the applicant or their representative, commissioners? Very good. Thank you both for your time. Anybody else from our community that wants to speak to this particular application, if you would raise your hand at this time, we'll know to call on you. All right, I think we don't have anybody else that wants to talk on this one. So we'll circle back to us for consideration of this application. Any thoughts, commissioners?
My thought, just looking at the property overall, the tree, the protected tree in the back, the oak, looks like it's probably over 100-year tree. It's quite majestic. It's lovely. I'm sure the neighbors all around enjoy it. And if the ultimate plan is to put a pool back there, to me, it doesn't look like the property would support a pool without threatening that quite majestic tree. That's my layperson opinion. But so my only hesitation, I think the property supports a kind of an ADU, but I just thought it was unfortunate if it's really intended to be a pool house, if ultimately the city planner, when she looks at it, perhaps with an arborist, has hesitation about following with a pool, if that's something they might not want to think about really carefully before they put a pool house there. that was just sort of my global take. As the individual trees, the liquid amber, I had absolutely no problem with. The oak, it does have a high canopy, like Commissioner Sharma said. I could see where over time it might be problematic being so close to the new structure. So that's kind of the totality of my thoughts on that.
And all very good ones. I agree with everything you said. Anybody else? All right. And I guess, we should be fair to the applicant in relationship to the comments you just made, Allison, and that is, if the ultimate goal is to submit an application that's going to be reviewed by staff that includes a pool, I think the tree removal, and Ms. Perkins, you can help me here, but the tree removal would come back to us and we would consider that if that's necessary to install the pool. Is that correct?
For that particular tree, yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Any oaks that are greater than, I believe it's 20 inches in circumference would come to the commission.
Okay. I see Ms. Schrader-Brown's hand is up. She may want to comment on this, or her hand may just be up from before, but if you want to speak, I'll give you that opportunity now. I'll open up public comment again. Ms. Schrader-Brown?
Sorry. I had to push the unmute button. Yes, definitely. We definitely have that majestic tree in mind as well. And we wanted to, like I said, that was like the goal of the entire plan, really, was to preserve and protect that. And so we would not want to jeopardize its health in any way. And we're not planning, there's no plan to compromise it in any way. So once the pool comes to the staff level, at that point, we will expect that that's reviewed. And also, in fairness, I don't think that we're going to start construction of the pool house unless the pool is definitely going in, just in terms of logistics. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that there's enough space. We looked at the perimeter and it looks like they're in the circumference of the tree, and it looks like there is enough space to support the pool. That is our hope.
Thank you.
There's the tree, and then there's the root structure supporting the tree. So my thought in looking at it, and I'm not an arborist, my thought in looking at it was, how could you drop a pool in there without seriously disturbing the roots of that biggest oak?
And the arborist will be weighing in on that. There's no way we're going to go forward without having an arborist report with the pool.
All right, well, we appreciate you clarifying that, because that's of concern, obviously, to the commission. And we don't want to approve this project and then have you circle back and seek a tree removal permit. We're going to tell you, no, you shouldn't have built the pool house because now you can't have a pool.
Yeah, we're not going to remove the tree.
Okay, so I'm glad we're having this conversation now. Better now than several $1,000s down the road. Okay, anything else, Ms. Schrader-Brown?
Nope, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, closing public comment again, and back to us. Allison, I really appreciated your remarks. I think they're spot on. That was my concern as well. But hearing from the applicant's representative in that respect gives me some assurance that we're not going to have an issue with the removal of that tree. And for that, I would support the application. Anybody else?
Are you making a motion, or are you just asking?
I'm asking if there's anybody that doesn't support it, then let's hear it. So before we make a motion.
I still have a concern with the, and I finally found the number. So I think the one I'm talking about is 107. If the I think that, or like, I think the structure already exists. So I'm not clear on why is that tree necessary to be removed? Because I think this already exists. You're not touching that structure. You're not constructing on that side. So why does 107 need to be removed?
Anybody else? Is 107 Pallavi the one that's going to be, I guess, on the side or rear of the proposed pool house?
So
I don't
sorry,
see
go
the
ahead,
one.
please.
I think the tree she's talking about is near a deck, but I think aren't they demoing the deck and then building the pool house in that general area?
Yeah, that
So,
was my understanding.
so I think the two trees that have to be removed are on both like the two sides of the property. So one of them, I think I understand the explanation that because you're building the pool house, it needs, you know, in order to have the access, we have to remove it. So that tree I do get. But the tree on the opposite side of the property, if you're not constructing anything there and it already exists, I'm not able to understand why that tree needs to be removed, because I didn't see anything in this application that said that the tree is dying or if it's causing any problems.
Yeah, in
The
fact,
one on the opposite side was the liquid amber, right?
yeah, it's the 107 and on L1.0, it's, if you look at the tree index up at the top left corner, it's in good condition with a 58-inch circumference.
It's a pretty tight spot, right?
Yeah. Well, does anybody want to entertain a motion that deviates from the proposed memorandum of decision in relation to that tree?
I would like to understand more about the reason for removal of the 107. If it is in a tight spot, if there's root damage, or you know, if we can get more explanation. Otherwise, I'll be in favor of approving the rest of the application with the exception of the 107.
Well, Ms. Schrader-Brown's hands up, and I'll be candid, guys. When you get an opportunity to speak, present everything. And I know it's not fair if we're articulating concerns after the fact. And so in fairness to applicants, commissioners, ask your questions when we do this so that we don't revisit public comment over and over. But having said that and admonished everybody far too severely, if you could give Ms. Schrader-Brown another opportunity to speak, she can perhaps answer Pallavi's concerns.
Hi. Yes, I understand what you're saying. And I think the point is that there is no access through that side. If that tree is there, then there's no way to access the backyard. But because we are focused on good forestry practices, we were planning to plant a tree to replace it in the back. And that I think it's just about access. It makes it difficult to pass the house and to actually go to the rear area if that tree remains.
Is that the same size setback there, 6 feet?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Anyone else for Ms. Schrader-Brown questions? Right.
Also, while I have you, all the landscape features have been pulled away from the drip line of the trees. So we're trying to protect the roots and leave the area under the larger tree undisturbed. And that's part of the reason that the big grand gesture is like our focus, and getting access that doesn't interfere with that drip line is what we're trying to do.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that explanation. Hopefully that's helpful to everybody here. No further questions for Ms. Schrader-Brown, folks? All right, thank you very much, ma'am. All right, does that give anybody concern regarding this particular application? Flavia, are you still worried about approving this with that tree?
No, I think it makes sense now. I mean, if it's because of the access and, you know, trying to preserve the drip line, I think it does make sense. So I would be okay with approving the application. So yeah, no, thank you for that explanation.
I concur. It was a concern, but I think access is going to be an issue, and that's a really tight spot. And the fact that they're planting replacement trees makes me feel a whole lot better about consideration of this application as presented. With that, I'm going to make a motion that the memorandum of decision for site development permit SS-21-10 in relationship to 16333 Alexander Avenue be approved as submitted with conditions attached. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, Mr. Leonardis, please.
Okay. Commissioner Harrington,
Aye.
Commissioner Sharma,
Aye.
Commissioner Ziegler,
Aye.
Commissioner Boucher,
Aye.
Chair White.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Leonard.
Passes unanimously again. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are making progress, folks. We are on item 6 of 7 tonight. And Ms. Perkins, if you'll introduce this particular project at 18510 Bicknell Road, we'd appreciate it.
Thank you. This is a site development permit to allow the demolition of an existing cottage and the construction of approximately 8,100 square foot single family home. And that figure does include the living space of the house, the garage, and covered patio areas. This request also includes the removal of one, it's actually a cedar tree, not a redwood tree. Removal of 113 6-inch circumference cedar tree. I do believe that the applicant's representative will talk about the possibility of trying to save that tree if possible. The staff does recommend approval of the site development permit and the tree removal of the cedar with the condition that one 24-inch box tree be planted in its location or in its replacement. And that concludes the staff report.
Great, thank you, Ms. Perkins. Any questions from Ms. Perkins, commissioners? Very good. Is there anybody that wants to speak on behalf of the applicant tonight? All right, I don't see any hands raised. Anybody from the community that wants to speak on this particular application? I see nothing there either. All right, we will close public comment and discuss this amongst ourselves, commissioners. Anybody want to take the lead here?
I'll go.
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
think that lot is so unaffected. I mean, you can't see it from the street. It's very private. The home they're proposing is very, it doesn't, you know, it's basically a flat roof and blends in with its surroundings quite nicely. So I'm in favor of it, even though it's huge. Very large, but we're allowed to build what we can build. And I like that they picked kind of earth tone colors to minimize its impact on the surrounding landscape that it sits on. I am okay with it.
Thank you, Heather. I concur. This lot is so isolated, if you will, that they could put virtually anything there, and it'd be very difficult to see from the adjoining streets. Commissioners, anybody else feel strongly about any aspect of this application that they want to comment now?
I'll just say that it looks like it blends in with the land, even though you can't see the land. So anyhow, it looks like a nice piece of architecture that somebody designed there.
Well said.
And the
I
homeowner
agree.
will enjoy their privacy.
Yeah, no, I agree on the architecture and design. It's very aesthetically pleasing. So I have no objections.
All right. I'm Mr. Motion today. All right, I'm going to move that we adopt the memorandum of decision for site development permit SS-21-11 with respect to 18510 Bicknell Road as submitted. Is there a second?
I second it.
Thank you, Heather. Mr. Leonardis, please.
Commissioner Harrington,
Aye.
Commissioner Ziegler,
Aye.
Commissioner Sharma,
Aye.
Commissioner Boucher,
Aye.
Chair White.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leonardis. All right, folks, and what I thought was going to be a very long evening is now coming to a close of our last agenda item. Good work, commissioners. Ms. Perkins, will you introduce item number 7, which relates to 17871 Andrews Avenue, please?
Yes, thank you. This is a site development permit to demolish an existing home and construct a new 3,000 square foot two-story home. One sort of point of order to note, although the application does include the conversion of an existing detached garage to an accessory dwelling unit, along with adding on to that structure, the review tonight is just for the main two-story house. The detached ADU is a non-discretionary review that would be done as part of the building permit when that is submitted. And staff recommends approval of the site development permit as proposed. And that concludes the staff report.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Commissioners, any questions for Ms. Perkins? All right. There being none, does the applicant want to speak to this particular project tonight, or the applicant's representative? All right, I see a Mr. Venter, excuse me.
Oh, sorry. Hi there. Yeah,
Hi.
Wilhelm Venter here. Yeah, I'm the designer of this project, and I'm here on behalf of our client, Mr. Sonu Singh, who I believe is also listening in on this conversation. Yeah, we've done lots of work for Mr. Singh in the past in the Monte Sereno area, and we're very excited to be working on our first ground up project in Monte Sereno.
Any questions for the applicant's representative? I have the question, how does this fit in with the rest of the neighborhood?
Am I unmuted?
No, you're unmuted. We can hear you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sorry. I've attempted to keep with the scale of the neighborhood as far as possible. Also with some built forms, if one looks at 3D explorations of the project, which I could show you if I could screen share, it would illustrate how it fits in the scale and massing of the existing neighborhood. Yeah, obviously in Monte Sereno, there is some precedent for more modern structures. Yeah, I've seen quite a few around the area. Yeah, it doesn't have any specific, kind of character. It's quite a bit of a mix of styles. So yeah, I believe in terms of scale and massing, it blends in quite nicely.
Why is the entrance to the property on the side?
Yeah, this was a request by a client. It was part of the brief. He wanted an entrance that faces east. It's part of his cultural beliefs. And yeah, we feel that it works with the design. If one looks at the plan, it allows us to place the main living areas at the back of the site. It reduces the amount of circulation required to get to the back of the building, or internal circulation. And yeah, the main idea behind this is to kind of have an internalized rear courtyard type of a yard, and all of the living spaces kind of living out onto that.
What's the need for all of the concrete planters in the front?
This is, yeah, there's quite a bit of a slope going down. That's what our landscape designer came up with, Megan Bishop, who's a landscape architect here in Santa Cruz. It's something that we could explore further. This was an initial conceptual design, and it can definitely be adjusted to suit other tastes, or to kind of soften it if it seems too harsh.
All right, those are my questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Venter. Anyone else have questions for the applicant's representative?
I wonder what is the truest representation of the street view. I'm looking at all the pictures, and it all seems like they're at a bit of an angle.
Okay. If you look at our, as part of the submission, we needed to do a street elevation, and I've done that to scale, and also showing the neighboring properties in elevation. And it's, yeah, I mean, that's the closest that you can get to a sort of a flat on view. If you would allow me to screen share, I can also pan you around a 3D representation of the project, and you can have a better understanding of what it looks like in context.
I'm happy to help you with screen sharing if I knew how to do that. So we're going to ask and see if there's somebody else that can help us there. Can we allow Mr. Venter to share his screen with us?
Yes, we are working on that right now.
Awesome. Thank you.
I did see the one that's, you know, the outline, black and white, etching, not color.
And there's sheet A6, Mr. Venter, A6-1, that's got some
Right.
3D views on it as well.
Yeah, so this is a basic what it looks
Oh,
like.
no, I haven't seen
So
like
this
that.
is
Oh,
what it-
that's nice. Thank you for doing that. That's helpful.
That's in context, so you can see, you know, in terms of setbacks and things like that, it doesn't, you know, it's not out of scale with what's next to it. If you zoom out and pan around it, it kind of respects the suburban scale and of what's going on around it.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Venter? Thanks for doing that, Mr. Venter. Anybody else have questions for him? All right.
Wait,
Thank you.
I
Go
just wanted to walk through the materials. So the second story walls are the Kendall charcoal or are they the roofing material? It's hard to tell. So it looks like on your elevations, can you just walk us through and just kind of explain your material choices on the second level?
Okay, on the second level, the idea was to kind of treat the second level almost as a, you know, a roof. So the upper level would also, it's supposed to read as a roof. Yeah, due to the setbacks and the sort of stepped back setbacks at the second level, it wasn't possible to kind of do a dormer roof without you know, yeah, the angles would need to be cut into. So you'd see a similar kind of shape to, you know, if you look at the house to the left of ours, it's very similar, you know, the setbacks, you know, it's 4 foot setback from the first story. So yeah, we basically just wanted to treat it as like a hat to the downstairs, basically a roof.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the clarification.
Excuse me, anybody else with questions for Mr. Venter?
Was any other design considered in terms of walking up to the front door, the piece, kind of the overhang there, that sharp edge? Were any other designs considered?
Well, again, it's I tried not to. There were some other designs considered. I feel this is the most successful. It's less bitty, you know. It's not as convoluted as some of the other solutions that or design proposals or solutions that I had to look at. Yeah, I feel that it helps with announcing the entrance. You've got sort of a sort of a loggia kind of a situation with the columns, you know, leading you into the front door. Yeah, that's essentially what we were trying to go for there. And also, if you look at in plan, it creates something that's quite a symmetrical kind of a composition, and yeah, a unified composition.
Anything else for Mr. Venter, commissioners? All right, thank you, Mr. Venter, very much. I thought I saw another hand raised. Now I don't. Story of my life. All right. Thank you, Mr. Venter. Does anybody from the public want to speak to this particular project? Now I see that hand raised again. Sunalak is what I see. I'll give you the opportunity to speak. If you don't
Hi there. Yes, I work with Will. We sit on the same team. I just wanted to chime in. There were lots of different difficulties with this site in terms of how convoluted and quite tight it was. I feel that the plan for the house that we've come up with is quite modest compared to its neighbours, and has an internal courtyard which also really facilitates a more kind of convivial and conducive neighbourhood vibe. It would be interesting for you to look at the landscape plans in more detail, just because I know the side entrance is of some concern, but it also, you know, we've done a lot of wayfinding through landscaping, which, you know, as you approach the house, it's quite a gentle thing. And that's all I had to say.
Yeah, maybe, you know, if I look at the perspective at the front of these plans, and then I look at the landscape master plan, they don't reconcile. The roof lines aren't even consistent. So I have a difficult time understanding. I have a real problem with the landscaping, to be candid. It looks like all we've got is a bunch of concrete out front. And then I look at this landscape master plan and there's some plants, but I have no idea what that's going to look like from the street view. If you look at the home to the left of it, they've done a good job of reducing that slope to the street and planting some decent landscaping. That's not evident on these plans.
Yes, so I think potentially we need to show you more context to that, because the house is very integrated with its landscaping, actually. And I think that potentially it looks like there's a lot of concrete. There's not some stamped concrete going up as pathways, but the house is actually extraordinarily planted at the front. And the client is very interested in having screening, like, for their neighbours and from their neighbours, and retaining existing trees. And that, you know, the landscaping really is the internal part of the home. So if that hasn't come across in the plans we showed you, I think we probably need to show you again.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for the applicant's representative, commissioners? All right. Thank you, Sunilak, if I'm saying that correctly. I hope I am.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your time tonight and that of Will. Anybody from the community that wants to speak to this particular project? All right, seeing no hands raised, I'm going to close public comment and circle back to my commissioners. I can't approve this project. It does not reconcile with the rest of the neighborhood. The entrance on the right-hand side, I think, I don't know, somebody clearly hasn't spoken to the neighbor, because they're not going to want that. And we're creating a precedent for people to put front doors wherever they want when they should be in the front. That's why they're called front doors. I think the landscaping, it looks like a giant concrete block, notwithstanding the landscaping plan. But if you look at the landscaping plan, you know, there's an overhang for the entrance, but that's not evident on the landscape plan. I don't even know what I'm considering here, given the submission that we have before us. But I am one vote, and there are another 4 of you. So I'm willing to be persuaded otherwise.
If I can just comment on the side entrance, or having the entrance on the east, I do know that that is a big cultural thing. But having said that, I think still from the front, it just doesn't look symmetrical, especially having the bathroom windows face the front. There's just something lopsided about that design. And I completely agree on the concrete, not having a clear idea of what that landscaping is going to look like. So the side entrance is less of a concern for me, but the other stuff is more of a concern.
I think for me, I would like to see the landscaping, which it sounds like it's just a question of them, showing us. The only part that I really struggle with aesthetically is the kind of right front corner of the overhang. My eye kind of moves around the house. Yes, it's more modern. I can handle that, but that part flat, almost flat roof jutting out to an extreme corner, it just bothers me aesthetically. The rest of the design I'm okay with.
Heather or Patrick?
I agree with everybody's comments. I think that there is way too much hardscape there as far as the front portion of the property. And the architecture does look somewhat disjointed. I mean, it looks like it's almost Mod Podge to me. I mean, it's okay, let's put a balcony over here on the left. I'm not sure what the logic behind it is. I mean, I'm sure that there is some, but to me, the consistency within the neighborhood, which I think is important with roof lines and structures, it is a mismatch.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I went back through the design guidelines, just kind of struggling with this house, and neighborhood compatibility. I feel like it doesn't fulfill that. And I feel like the physical design components don't work with the neighborhood as well. There's just a certain amount of harshness. I am not against modern architecture at all. I'm a fan of it. I just feel like the harshness of the roof line and the Mr. Venter referred to it as the hat component, where the walls of the second story out of the roofing material are just so harsh and stark and don't blend into the physical landscape like we want in Via Sereno. So I struggle with it for those reasons.
All right, thank you, Heather. I concur with what you say. I think they need to take significant steps in relationship to the overall design to have this be something that is suited for this particular neighborhood. And even the color tones are just really dark. And I'm not sure that, I think this is going to be an eyesore on the street, candidly. So we have an opportunity to, and Ms. Perkins, I'm going to elicit your help here. We can continue this matter if that helps the applicant, and I'll open it up to the applicant's rep about what they want to do in this respect, if that's an opportunity for them. But I'm happy to continue this matter if it shortens the time within which we can review it again. But I think at this juncture, we would otherwise deny it. Is that an option for us, Ms. Perkins?
A continuation to a future meeting is definitely an option.
Okay.
We would continue it to a date certain. So either the next meeting or the one after.
Okay. And then if I can go back and just speak to the applicants and see if Sinalock or Will has a preference, we're happy to hear from you guys, because you've heard the comments of the commission, and an outright denial can be something that you want to entertain and appeal, or alternatively come back to us with something else. All right, you're both raising your hands. That's great. We'd like to hear from as many as possible.
Yeah, I think we could work on the design and adjust so that it's more suitable, or kind of ticks all the boxes. If that's required, we can work with the planner and see what we can come up with.
Sinalock, you feel the same?
Yes, agreed. Yes, absolutely. Okay. I drive around that neighborhood and I do see lots of very, very modern architecture, that some of which hits and misses the mark. And I think perhaps reducing the roof line and giving you a much bigger and better understanding of what we described as a landscaping would help your panel understanding our meaning for the house. It is quite modest. It is quite contemporary. But it will recede back from the sidewalk quite significantly. And I do think we have to retain our clients' integrity of their side entry, even if there's a non-symmetrical moment, that we can come up with something that is agreeable to you all.
I'm going to give you that chance. I don't know how persuaded I'll be by that, but how much time do you guys need if we push this out to our August or September meeting?
No, a month's fine. Yeah, we can rejiggle.
That's sufficient. Yeah, I don't want to press you guys, and I know your clients are eager to get this project started.
Yes, 4 weeks would be great. Thank you.
Okay, is that all right with you, Ms. Perkins?
Yes, and I can work with the applicant to get the revised plans in time for the noticing of the next meeting.
Very good. All right, then I will make a motion to continue agenda item number 7, which is site development permit SS-21-13 for 17871 Andrews Street to our next regularly scheduled meeting. Is there a second? Thank you, Heather. And Mr. Leonardis?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we will do the roll call vote. Commissioner Harrington?
Aye.
Commissioner Ziedler?
Aye.
Commissioner Sharma?
Aye.
Commissioner Boucher?
Aye.
Chair White?
Aye.
The motion for continuance to our next meeting passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leonardis. And thank you, applicants. We look forward to seeing you next month. All right, with that, that's my agenda.
Before we close the meeting, can we talk about if we can meet in person?
Yeah, Mr. Leonardis, what's the scoop with meeting in person? Can we start doing that?
So thank you for bringing the question, Commissioner Harrington. I don't believe anything precludes you from meeting in person with the applicants on an individual basis. Of course, you should refrain from discussing with more than one other commissioner on the commission to avoid any kind of Brown Act violations. And of course, you should avoid kind of what's called serial communications. I spoke to so-and-so commissioner, and then that commissioner spoke to applicant, and then that in turn went into another commissioner's opinion, et cetera, et cetera. You're all familiar with all the rules. You know, there is this school of thought that when you do meet with applicants sometimes and or their agents, they will, of course, try to persuade you and those kinds of things. And I think as long as you conduct yourselves in a professional manner and just stick by, you know, the guidelines, the rules, and hear what they have to say, and don't make any promises prior to the public hearings, I don't see any harm in meeting with the applicants. I think.
Let me just interrupt you, Mr. Leonardis. I don't think you understood the question. So we're well versed on meeting with applicants and having that type of discussion, and we generally do not do that, right, commissioners? But what we're really asking is, can we have our meeting in council chambers again as opposed to doing it by Zoom?
Sorry if I was.
I'm sorry I got off onto that.
No, it's a great education.
It's a good reminder of the rules. It was helpful anyhow. Thank you.
Okay. I don't know why I misinterpreted that. So back to Heather's original question. My apologies. So you can come into the council chambers at this point in time. The governor said as of September 29th, you know, the current Brown Act rules have been suspended through the end of September, which enables us to have these Zoom meetings. However, many entities have come back into the chambers. If it is the desire of this commission to come back into the council chambers for the next meeting in August, we can arrange that and we can notice that and we can bring you all in. It's just a matter of preference. I know that that there are those who prefer the Zoom meetings as well. So it's just, I guess, why don't you send your correspondence to Ms. Perkins in email? Her email address is Diana Perkins at Diana at cityofmontesereno.com, excuse me, Diana at cityofmontesereno.com. And she also has the same phone number Ms. Hamilton had. So let her know your preference and we will make arrangements accordingly for the next next meeting.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
have, I have a question. So if we go back in chambers and then, you know, if one of us is under the weather, could you still have the Zoom option?
So that becomes more complicated in the sense that I thought about, the future with all these rules and what we'd had been through. And, members of the public and their corresponding via Zoom is more convenient in some instances than showing up in person, et cetera, et cetera. And I say probably it's kind of an all or none thing. If somebody wasn't feeling well, they should probably just not attend the meeting, and we wouldn't have a Zoom as well as a council chambers meeting. We wouldn't do a hybrid at this point in time. That becomes logistically difficult. And our IT person, I spoke with them about that as well. So I would say it's all or none. If you wanted to continue until, say, the end of September, the next 2 meetings via Zoom, and then go live, in theory, the governor also gave us till December 31st, past the September 29th meeting time. But if this body wants to meet in person, we are open to having you come into the chamber. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah.
Can we vote between us, or is it better?
Well,
to
I would
send
say,
us-
because it's not necessarily on the agenda tonight, just kind of email your desire to Ms. Perkins, Diana at cityofmontesereno.org, and then we will send out the notice before the next
If we don't mind sharing our view publicly with this group, can we do so, or would you rather we not?
Well, it's really just, this is not really something that has any impact on any project. So if you so desire at this point in time, it's really just process stuff. So I guess you could share
Yeah,
your.
we're not
your
taking
views.
any action. We can talk about it.
Okay.
It's not actionable, it's not agendized, but at the same time, it's just more or less a question of process. So it's up to you if the chair decides to say, go down the list, share your preference right now, we can do that, and that would facilitate things.
Go ahead.
May I go first?
Yes, you may.
So generally, if it were just me, I'm vaccinated, I'd be totally fine in person. My only hesitation is I have a 10-year-old and she's not vaccinated yet. And my understanding with the Delta variant is I could pick it up and bring it home to her, even myself being vaccinated. And I keep seeing that maybe the kids will be vaccinated. She's 10, so she'd be, next, maybe in September or October. So I feel a little more comfortable then, but I could certainly go in person and wear a mask. And I don't mind doing that at all. So I don't know if the rest of you have a less complicated situation than I do, perhaps.
Blvd?
I'm good either way. So I'll just go with the flow. I'm happy to return to in-person meetings or just do them over Zoom.
Heather?
I'd prefer to do them in person, but I am very respectful of the fact that you have a 10-year-old, and that's a very good reason to hold off. That's what we need to do.
Patrick?
I think it would be easier if we just continue the Zoom until we all get vaccinated. I'm
right.
sorry, but that just seems to be the most logical thing at this point. Although I do like to meet people in person and to deal directly with individuals, but seems a little complicated now still.
Right. Okay, well, let's table this discussion for another meeting. I think Allison's concerns are legitimate and appropriate. I have one other item that I wanted to talk briefly about. There was, as you guys recall, there was a presentation that we received from the group that's going to help us define better objective standards through which we're going to view these various applications. And there was a recent community forum on that. And I was disappointed that none of the commissioners were invited to it or even were made aware of it. I found out about halfway through it and joined it. But I would ask Mr. Leonardis or Ms. Perkins if there are going to be additional public forums for that process, that we be alerted to them so that we might have an opportunity to participate.
So
And
I
thank
did
you.
attend that, and I agree with you that, I actually found out about it through one of the council members. So you're right, like we didn't receive any notification about, there being this community forum. But yeah, so.
And we got beat up.
Well, thank you, Chair White and Commissioner Sharma, for your input on that. So, Ms. Hamilton, as you know, is not with us anymore, but I would think there could have been a rational explanation for your not being invited, although you're all residents of Monte Sereno. So I'm going to argue my point both ways. One reason why they may not have wanted you to attend was because it gets into a Brown Act violation thing where if more than two of you were to attend the meeting, it would be considered a non-noticed meeting of the Site and Architecture Committee. I know it sounds technical. Now, in theory, all of you could have probably attended by zooming in from your home and having your kid's name on the screen or your spouse or whatever, and just listened and not necessarily participated in extensive dialogue. I think what we should do going forward, we have a website dedicated to this process from what we call EMC, who is conducting the objective standards review for the city. And are you all familiar with the location of the website and the calendar on that website of the upcoming meetings and things like this?
No, but Steve, let me interrupt you. Ms. Perkins, can you just let us know when those meetings are?
The answer is absolutely yes.
Yeah, that's real simple. That's the nature of the inquiry.
Yes.
We're not deliberating on any subjects. There's no Brown Act violation there. I disagree with you. So I'm just asking Ms. Perkins to please notify us when those meetings are scheduled.
Absolutely. We will, Ms. Perkins can do that. And I just want you to know that I think, again, I can't speak for what the thought process was behind it, but going forward, we're happy to keep you in the loop, obviously. And I think there will be, of course, obviously you guys will be involved ultimately down the road when it goes through your body. So thank you.
No, and my other remark in relationship to that, and I'll be quiet after that, is I also was disappointed that there was a purported ad hoc committee prepared in relationship to that project, comprised of 2 council members, without any communication with this commission, which I think should have at least 1, if not 2 reps on any ad hoc committee, plus all of the resources we have in this community with architects and designers that could also help an ad hoc committee help EMC, I think it is, define better objective standards. And we have all these resources in this community, and we didn't use them. And I would ask you, Mr. Leonardis, to ask the City Council to consider expanding the ad hoc committee with commissioners and designers and architects from our community so that all views are entertained, as opposed to 2 commissioners trying to come up with something merely hours before the presentation.
That's an excellent point. I do believe that it would be good practice to add 2 of the members of Site and Art to the ad hoc committee. With that said, I'm trying to understand, how the council became involved in that process, because I advised them, as I advised you, watch the meeting, but, listen, don't participate. And then it was, again, very short notice. They somehow got involved, and I don't know. Going forward, I hope it will be different, and I hope that we can add your input as ad hoc committee members and perhaps more, as you suggested.
That's great.
It was only the first meeting, and I think the process could be better, and it will be better. I think your input is very valuable. So the community needs your support on this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leonardis. So that's all I had. Those are my 2 whines for the night. Anybody else have anything before we adjourn?
I just want to say I agree with Chair White, because we're all trying to serve the community. So the more we hear what the community has to say, it can only help us do our job and represent them well.
So I have a question for all of you. Last year, I brought forth the idea of having a joint council and Site and Arc committee meeting. and we tried to put together an example of a typical, planning project and how you have a viewpoint on that and what council's viewpoint was on that project. And we had extensive discussion and or perhaps the information that you just mentioned, differences of opinion on and or lack of participation on certain things. Let me sum it up this way. We have our general plan update, we have our objective standards coming forward, and we have our housing element all coming forward. They're all underway. And I think it would be productive to have another joint meeting if this body is in support of that. I could suggest to the council last year, I think we had it in September. So I think just on an annual basis, it's good practice to have the commission and the council just get together, and we'll put together an agenda and just have an open discussion among all of you. So I know 3 of you are new members, but if there is support for this idea, let me know.
I support it. Yeah. Sorry. I support it. What other commissioners? Heather, do you support something like that?
Yes, in fact, I think I've suggested it a few times. Yes.
Pallavi?
Yeah, I'm in favor of it.
Allison?
Yes.
And Patrick?
I would be too.
Yeah,
yes.
we would welcome that opportunity. So thank you very much, Mr. Leonaris, for suggesting it as much.
Certainly, and if you have ideas that you would like to share, what I would call, sticking points or just things that you have seen through your deliberations that could be better, process improvements, maybe rules that might be more streamlined or could be viewed as so-and-so agencies doing this, but we aren't, why not? Send me your ideas and we can incorporate those into the meeting forum, as well as the other things you mentioned earlier.
Great idea. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Anything further, commissioners? All right, we're adjourned. Everybody have a wonderful evening. We'll see you next week.
I want to say thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Welcome, Ms. Perkins. And thank you, Mr. Leonaris, for stepping in tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night.
Good night.
Night.
Thank you.